Welcome to History Clips. I'm Mr. Hummel.
And I'm Mr. Bueller. And today in History Clips, what we're going to be talking about is the United States government and how powers between the United States government are both separated and divided among different branches.
So instead of having one person in charge of everything, power is delegated between different groups so they don't make rash decisions.
My idea of a perfect government is one guy who sits in a small room at a desk, and the only thing he's allowed to decide is who to nuke. The man is chosen based on some kind of IQ test and maybe also a physical tournament, like a decathlon.
Now, first thing you need to know, in the United States, something called federalism is practiced. And what federalism entails is that there are certain government powers that are divided between the federal government in Washington, D.C., and each of the 50 state governments. Now, some of these state powers would be like driver's license. The states have the right to dictate that.
And in the federal government, they're more powerful than the state. The states have to follow all federal laws, but states don't have to follow other state laws. Federal laws such as a national defense force, the Army, the Navy, the Marines. States can't create that, but they can create a local police force, but again, cannot create a national defense force.
You son of a... What's the matter? The CIA got you pushing too many pencils? Huh? Had enough?
Make it easy on yourself, Dutch. Okay.
Never did know when to quit, huh?
Now, this divide between state and federal powers is a form of separation of powers.
But it's not the only example of separation of powers. You see, the Founding Fathers, as Mr. Hummel said earlier, were afraid of one man or one branch of government having too much power. So what they did is they divided the power up with rules, laws, routines, and procedures to keep the government branches separated.
You gotta keep them separated.
6 feet means 6 feet, Hummel.
One of these separated powers is the executive branch. And the executive branch, if you look at the word, it says execute in it. And that is exactly what the executive branch does. It's the president in the United States, it's mayors in cities, it's the governors in the states, and they are there to enforce laws. They don't write laws, they enforce laws through police and national defense and bureaucracy powers.
Oh, Drebin, I don't want any more trouble like you had last year on the South Side. Understand? That's my policy.
Yes, well, when I see 5 weirdos dressed in togas stabbing a guy in the middle of the park in full view of 100 people, I shoot the bastards. That's my policy.
That was a Shakespeare in the Park production of Julius Caesar, you moron.
I'd like you to consider filling a special post I'm going to create. It may mean long hours, dangerous nights, and being surrounded by some of the scummiest elements in our society.
You want me to be in your cabinet?
Now, as stated, they do not make the laws, and the Founding Fathers' reason for preventing the executive branch from making laws is they were worried that the executive branch could just make up any law willy-nilly whenever they wanted to.
Seize him. Cut his throat. Stop. Wait. I've changed my mind. Let him go. Step back 3 paces. Turn around. Close your eyes. Power is power.
And just because you're an enforcer of the law doesn't mean you're above the law. They must follow the laws, too.
So lie! The evidence has been falsified! It's impossible! I never broke the law! I am the law!
Now, if a member of the executive branch is found to be breaking the law, they can be impeached and removed from office. But this impeachment must be done when evidence is found and cannot merely be done because of political rivalries or disagreements.
Take my hand
confess to Russian collusion.
He switched it. He did it to them.
Our next branch of government we'll talk about, the legislative branch, also known as Congress, is made up of the two-house system of the House of Representatives and the Senate.
I am the Senate.
Now, the legislative branch, if you look at the word legislative, it has legislature or to legislate in it. And that is basically meaning to dictate or write. So basically, that's exactly what they do. They write the laws. They don't enforce, they write and create the laws. However, a lot of times, it's just a lot of procedures.
Before the Galactic Senate votes, we shall call roll. Star System Abaton.
Yeah.
Star System Acroilius. Star System Trebulon Prime.
Whoa, Mama, finally some action.
Mr. Chairman, I propose a procedural amendment to Space Bill number 371.
You'll wait your turn.
Very well.
Trebulon Minor.
Oh, I'm so bored. Maybe I'll clean out my wallet.
Now, our last branch that we're going to talk about is the judicial branch. And if you break down that word, you see the word judicial or to judge. And this branch is where citizens who have issues with the government can actually take the government to court and sue them.
Excuse me!
What now, Dale?
I am Dale Gribble, American citizen, and I demand that you help my disturbed friend here.
I'm sorry, sir, but the state requires
Listen! I've never been able to say this in my whole life, but as of 2 p.m. yesterday, I am a taxpayer, and I demand $36 worth of service.
Sir, if you...
I know the chain of command, starting with your supervisor, Franklin Thomas, all the way up to the underintendent of transportation, Edward Dibble, whose daughters, Pat and Ellie, played Ladybug soccer with the daughters of the President of the United States. And I'm not afraid to make some phone calls.
Now, the highest court of the land is called the Supreme Court, and their job is to see if laws are constitutional or not. And if they declare a law unconstitutional, the law goes away.
But the law is the law if it becomes law and you're just willing to break it.
Unconstitutional laws aren't laws.
If you want to serve on the judicial branch and be a judge, how the separation of powers work is the executive branch has to appoint you. But once again, there's still the separation of powers. So then the legislative branch, their check on the executive branch is they have to approve that appointment by the executive branch.
And this is to ensure that a right person is given the job instead of just making rash decisions.
I want to be your assistant.
Really? You hate it here.
So do you. I'll make sure you don't have to go to any meetings. If anyone comes to see you, I'll scare them away.
Wait, April, if you had to choose between these two ties...
You're hired.
The judicial branch's check on the legislative branch is they can declare legislative laws unconstitutional. But the executive branch also has a check on the legislative branch where they can veto the laws that the legislative is trying to pass.
You mean even if the whole Congress says you should be a law, the president can still say no?
Yes, that's called a veto. If the president vetoes me, I have to go back to Congress and they vote on me again, and by that time you're so
By
old.
that time, it's very unlikely that you become a law.
Now, we can all agree that the system is not perfect, and there's been many debates throughout U.S. history over who actually has what power.
I wish the government would just ban itself. Wrap your head around that, fellas.
But the system is better because it does not directly lead to dictatorship.
All hail President Kane!
I don't understand why we have to build a ray gun to aim at a planet I never even heard of.
Don't blame me. I voted for Kodos.
Go!
Hey, Hummel. I just realized something.